Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see that participant number going up, which is great. Thank you so much for being here today. We're really delighted to welcome you to our International Education Week alumni panel with some of our absolutely incredible alumni that represent our programs around the world. I'm very excited to be joining you today. My name is Heather Gregg Reed. I'm Senior Director of Strategic Engagement here at CAPA, which means I have the absolute privilege and pleasure of working with our students and our universities across the US and worldwide. And I'm joined here today by Katie Claggett, who will be our official host and moderator for the evening. Katie, can I pass it over to you?
Yes, thank you so much, Heather, and thank you so much to our panelists for joining today. I'm so excited to dive into all of these amazing topics and conversations. I just want to chat about a few housekeeping notes before we jump into introductions. So again, thank you so much for tuning in today to celebrate International Education Week. I know that this is a busy week for so many people, and so I'm grateful for you to spend your time with us tonight. So for a few housekeeping notes, everyone in our audience, you can see us as panelists, but please note that as an attendee, you will remain muted and not visible during the duration of the panel. You are welcome to ask questions for our panelists today. You'll see down at the bottom there is a Q&A box, so please feel welcome and encouraged to submit questions throughout the panel tonight. We will do our best to answer those live, and we will be sending out a recording of the panel as well to answer any questions that we may not have had a chance to address tonight as well. So for introductions, my name is Katie Claggett. I'm a Partner Engagement Manager here at CAPA, and as Heather mentioned, I am the moderator for today's panel. And so for each of our panelists, please share your name, your home institution, and what you study, and where and when you completed an experience abroad. So there's already a little hint of that in your name, but I would like you all to each introduce yourself as well. So Ellie, can I start with you?
Absolutely. So my name is Ellie Hague. I'll be graduating this December with my Bachelor's of Science in Visualization. It's a little bit like a arts animation program, with those of you who are unfamiliar. And sorry, what were the other few things?
Home institution and where and when you studied abroad.
Okay. I go to Texas A&M, and then I studied abroad at Sogang University in Seoul, South Korea.
Wonderful. Asel, can I pass it over to you next?
Of course. My name is Asel Kahveci. I'm from University of Illinois, Chicago. I'm originally from Turkey. I studied abroad in Barcelona with the SAE program, now under the CAPA program. Any questions, anything that you want to talk to me about, I'm very open to any type of questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Sam, over to you.
Hi guys, my name is Sam Paris. I am a junior at Michigan. I am wearing merch, but I studied abroad this past summer in Buenos Aires, Argentina at IPA, and I took physics classes there and upper level humanities while I was there. And then, oh my gosh, I'm studying biomedical engineering on a pre-medical track.
Wonderful. James, next.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Veneroni. I am a sophomore at UNC Chapel Hill studying political science. And this past May, I spent 2 weeks in Rome as a part of the pre-law Lex Fellowship program.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Jaclyn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jaclyn Ricardo. I am a postgrad on a gap year. I am a BS and an MS in biology, class of 24. I did my degree work at Nova Southeastern University here in South Florida. I am an Atlantis alum, and I have had the pleasure of actually doing 2 Atlantis programs. I did one in Budapest, Hungary last summer, a 3-week program, and then I did a 2-week program this summer in Chioggia, Italy. My degree work was all in pre-med, and I actually do serve as an admissions coordinator during my gap year here at Atlantis.
Amazing. I'm so excited to dive into all of the varied experiences that you all have had. And so to kick things off, I really love to put the study and study abroad. There's so much learning that happens all around the world. And so I would love to open this up to any alumni who would like to answer. If you could please share how your experience abroad supported your own academic journey.
Yeah, I can go first. I forgot to mention my major and my year. So I'm a finance and information sciences double major, and I'm graduating next year. So I was looking for programs that definitely would be able to have me transfer that credits for business. And the Barcelona program enabled that for me. And there was a lot of studying going on, especially for the first few weeks. And then I got used to how the things were being taught because some of the professors are also teaching Spanish. I did take a lot of English courses. I took about 5 courses and then 1 photography course just for fun. That was amazing. But usually, I think the studying, especially the first few weeks, until you get used to everything going on, is a little hard in the beginning. And then you really catch up to the momentum of things. And the professors are all nice. I'm sure whichever university you go to. That was my experience.
I can go next. So I am studying biomedical engineering and I'm doing it pre-med. And there's a lot less overlap between the classes that are required for both than you would expect. So a lot of the prerequisites that I had to take ended up not being able to fit in during those first just 2 years as is. And I need to start taking the upper level classes. The program through CAPA, there are a couple of them. Gave me the opportunity to study abroad for 8 weeks during the summer, getting the physics 240, so physics 2 credit that I needed in order to take the next classes in my BME, and then the upper level humanities that most universities for engineering requires. So it helped me take care of a lot of my prerequisites over the summer when I wasn't taking other classes, while also giving me the opportunity to go somewhere that I never would have expected to go. Argentina was really cool. During the summer, it gave me the opportunity to, one, completely immerse myself in a Spanish experience all over again, which isn't required at all. You don't have to speak a lick of Spanish in order to go, but it gave me a really great opportunity to practice something that I had done a really long time ago. And it also gave me the opportunity to explore all around a country that I never thought I would.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for sharing. And I think you make a great point, both of you, of obviously there's a lot to consider with credits transferring in. And Sam, I think you shared beautifully there about how a shorter program option can be really fruitful for getting that experience for sure. Before I move on to the next question, I wanted to give any other alums a chance to chime in about your academic journey.
I definitely would like to talk a little bit about how Atlantis helps pre-health students, because whereas a lot of CEA CAPA programs are doing credit bearing, like on location with professors, Atlantis is instead putting students directly in the hospital environment to learn from physicians, from nurses. So I will say that on an academic standpoint, the resume building cannot be understated, because these are the clinical observation hours that we need to apply to medical school, to apply to PA school. So everyone from the program was so happy to just have such a significant chunk of hours. It's guaranteed at least 20 per week. So for any pre-med student, it's such a booster. For me personally, I've done 2 programs, so I've gotten 100 shadowing hours solely through Atlantis. I believe this has made my application, which fingers crossed, much more competitive. And then the professional development as well on an academic standpoint, getting to speak directly with physicians, give a lot of insight on how to navigate through undergrad and towards medical school.
Such a great call out, and I'm really excited to dive into the shadowing aspects of both the Lex Fellowship and Atlantis opportunities later on in the hour. I also wanted to make a point, if we have any study abroad professionals joining us from various universities, welcome to the panel tonight. And I wanted to mention that new with CA CAPA, we do have some 4-credit Atlantis options. So if that is interesting to you, just know that there's more information to come on that soon. James or Ellie, would either of you like to chime in about your academic journey and experience?
Hi. So, as I mentioned, I study abroad on the Lex Fellowship, which was very similar to what the Atlantis program was, except transfer all of those experiences from the medical field to the law field. So you're talking with lawyers, you're going to law firms, you're working with them. For me, it was a different one each day. We're doing activities with them, networking. It was a lot of fun. It really can't be understated the professional development opportunities that it provided.
And then I guess I can finish up. So I have a little bit of a different experience because it was actually required as a part of my degree to go abroad. Um, and so when I kind of like went into the program, I just kind of thought of it as this like extra thing that I had to do. But it ended up being like one of the best experiences of my life. Um, Basically we had to take I believe 6 credit hours abroad to fulfill the requirement, and so I took classes that kind of fit some different electives, but electives within my major, at Seoul University. They have a program that is very similar to the visualization program where they have a heavy focus on the combination of arts and technology. But it was really kind of interesting to see, even though it's this interdisciplinary program, how different cultures approach creative problem solving. That was definitely interesting to see. And I feel like it made me a better artist and a better thinker after being able to have that educational experience. So.
Thank you all so much for sharing about your own academic journeys. So I'm gonna switch into my next question. Again, this is for anyone to jump in, but I'm curious for you to all maybe give some shout outs to the staff that you interacted with while you were abroad. So can you share about support that you received from on-site staff? How did they support you? Feel welcome to share about any orientation or cultural support. So please speak to your interactions with staff.
I think I can go first because Atlantis, and I believe Lex has the same thing too, are city managers. So this is an Atlantis employee who's a local to the country. The city managers absolutely make sure that we get such an intimate look into the city. So for us, the city manager, she was already contacting all of us before the trip. So we had someone already like in touch with us. They were expecting us. How's your flight going? Okay, I'm waiting for you here at the housing. So I feel that for American students like heading over to Europe, especially for me, it was my first time ever going to Europe, ever going on a flight alone. So just knowing that the city manager was already waiting for me gave me such level of comfort. I was able to ask them for advice. And then throughout the program, they coordinated the schedule. They gave us such good tips on how to navigate the city, on how to have all of the experiences that we wanted to, both inside and out of the hospital, advice for communicating with the doctors and certain like native greetings that we should keep in mind. And I feel that the city manager, like she made sure that we had an intimate look into the city and the program just went so smoothly. The constant communication was so great. And I feel like they did have such a great balance between guiding us, but also letting us take the reins and kind of choosing our own experience throughout it. So I absolutely, Atlanta City Manager is on top. I loved mine so much.
I would also just like to chime in there for the Lex Fellowship as well. They were really great. We had two state managers on my program, Juliana and Marco. They were Marco was a local to Rome. Juliana was from Bologna. They had lived there for however many years. They knew all the hidden gems, where to go, tips, how to stay safe, especially. Not that Rome was dangerous, but just uh, how to know your way around. They were without them, we all would have been lost.
Yeah, I had an incredible experience in Barcelona as well. So I was staying with a Spanish exchange family, and she did not speak English at all. I know some Spanish, but the Spanish that they speak in Europe is different than the Spanish that they teach in here in high school. So I had lots of language difficulty at first, and I remember always texting my manager, just saying like, "How do I say this? What do I do?" she just like, like the amount of food that she cooks, I was trying to, negotiate with that. Like, this is what I like to eat for breakfast. Kind of like in the first beginnings, I was really relying on my manager as well. And in general, the SAE program was heavily orientation related. So there was a lot of activities for students. We were always placed in groups. We had a lot of trips in Spain, not just staying in Barcelona. But if I was to travel myself without a program, I would never be able to find those opportunities. And the cost was also a fact that I chose the program, and we went to a lot of different cities in Europe as well. Just being with a program that supports you really affects your experience abroad, I think, and I had such a great experience.
I can go next. We had the most incredible CA CAPA team, satellite team down in Buenos Aires. Maggie and Floor were absolutely incredible. They came with such energy to everything that they did, all the different excursions that they planned. We went to Rio de la Plata, which is a very much so like cowboy sort of area. We went through, and as part of our immersion class, we had a lot of pieces that were like field trips, and a lot of that was through the class itself, and then some of that was planned through the CEA Kappa Center. So they planned these trips for us to go visit different cowboy locations, for us to go try mate, which is a very important Argentinian staple, and they overall, everything that we wanted, we got to go watch tango dancing, and that was something that they completely set up as well. At the very beginning, when we showed up in the city, Buenos Aires is also a relatively safe city. That being said, there's a lot of pickpocketing that occurs, and that was something we were all warned about. 2 people still lost their phones. However, at the very beginning of all of it, Fleur and Maggie made sure that they guided us around the city completely, showed us where all of the intercambio stations were to exchange our money, how to keep our phones safe on us, helped us find things that people wear, like the necklaces that go inside of your shirt in order to protect your phone, that sort of thing, and overall gave us a really great rundown on how to live like a local from the very beginning. That obviously took us all a second to adjust to, but once we did, we all felt very safe and at home because of what they gave us at the beginning. And on top of that, you could contact them at any time, and they were so open to absolutely any question that you may ask. All of the homestay parents were very closely in contact with them constantly, which made for all the communication overall to be really good and also just very fun. Since then, I'm still in contact with both Floor and Maggie. So genuinely, the Argentina team, I know I can say for a fact, absolutely amazing.
Amazing. And I really appreciated those specific examples. And you made a great point as well right there of assistance 24/7 for those emergency lines. So that is a perk too. Before I jump, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, specifically on emergency front, that was actually something I forgot about. While I was abroad, I ended up getting really sick out of nowhere. We had no idea what happened. I had like a fever of 103. It was not great. I called them in, I think genuinely the middle of the night saying, hey, I don't know what to do here. The medical system is treated a little bit differently here. They immediately picked up the phone and they immediately guided me to figure out what I needed to do in order to get the care that I needed, and ended up being all okay. Ended up being like some sort of strep. I don't know. It was winter there, so people were still getting sick. But they made sure that that experience was as little painful as it could possibly be.
100%. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And definitely when those challenges occur abroad, because they do occur, and I call them character building moments. And so just to know that with all of our staff across the world, they provide phenomenal support and they are there for you every step of the way. For the sake of time, I'm gonna actually pass the mic over to Heather. We've been getting some really awesome questions in the chat relating to housing, relating to city managers. So Heather, will you share a little bit about those topics, please?
Absolutely. The city manager one seems to be a pretty hot topic. And since we were just talking about staff support, I did want to address, yes, we do have staff in all of the locations where we have programs to support students. And in particular, I saw some people asking if there would be dedicated staff in Barcelona and Madrid. I did want to call out, we actually have full study centers in those locations. So an entire team of people that are there to support your students. the great thing about locations where we have study centers is those are actually dedicated spaces where students can come together. Sometimes they come together for classes, but sometimes it's just a place that they can come, ask questions, get support, ask for tips and recommendations, charge their phone, use the restroom. So it really becomes a home base in cities, especially where we have these study centers. And another thing that was mentioned was, related to housing. Where is it located? How close is it to everything? That question was about Barcelona in particular. And Barcelona is such a great example of a location that has so many different options for students. So you heard Asel mention the opportunity to live with a host family. That is available in Barcelona. You also have students that live in apartments with other students from CAPA programs, or depending on the preferences they indicated, they might be living with other students but have people around them that are locals. So it depends on the specific housing as to where it's located in the city, but we try to keep everything relatively central. I do like to remind folks that it's quite common, especially when you're based in Europe, to have a bit of a commute. But the great news is public transportation is incredibly easily accessible, and our staff are there to make sure to share with students how to access public transportation, how to get around, and to feel really empowered. And again, to use Barcelona as an example, our center is right in the middle of the city. So it's such a great launching pad for students, if they're at class, to feel like they can access all of the other things that they want to do in a day's time. So we really try to focus on providing a great support network for students to make their time as enjoyable as possible. And certainly our staff are there. We hope students don't get sick. We hope they don't have any instances abroad where they need our help, but we are available 24/7. And I know there were some questions about exactly who will the city manager be, because we have an entire team of people there to help on site. You might find that your student, or that you, if you are the student, is working with somebody different on the academic elements of their time abroad, or if they need health and safety support. So the great news is, as soon as they arrive in their country, there'll be an orientation to introduce them to all of the staff they have as a support network. So they'll be able to share with you exactly who is on site. And if you have any questions before they go, you can always check in with their site specialist and their advisor here in the US who's working with them, who can share some more information as well. So hopefully that helps address a few questions. But I want to, before we skip totally off this topic, for our panelists who lived with host families, but I think this is relevant for all of you in general. There was a great question about how you adjust to living with a host family, any tips and advice. I'm going to go out on a limb because I hear alumni say all the time that they actually adored living with a host family and got so much out of it from language learning, and the adjustment was not nearly as challenging as they anticipated it might be. But if I could open it up, Asel and Sam, for you to comment, and then even for the rest of you, maybe just your thoughts on living abroad and how that felt for you, and any tips you might share as well. So Sam, can I pass it over to you first?
Yeah, genuinely going abroad, we had the options of living in an apartment or a homestay, and I immediately knew that I wanted to do the homestay. Again, at the beginning of the program, something that they said is that we didn't need to have any Spanish knowledge in order to do either of them one way or another. I will say, if you choose to do a homestay, the language barrier does end up being something to consider. I came in with a lot of Spanish knowledge, yet I hadn't used it in years. So it was definitely an adjustment period language-wise. There were two people that we stayed with. I stayed with somebody else from Michigan with me. That we stayed with Maria and Juan. Maria, who only spoke Spanish, she did not speak a lick of English, and Juan, who sort of acted as her interpreter slash translator overall. I will say that the language barrier, though, we very quickly overcame. I spoke a lot more Spanish than my other friend who came from Michigan, but we were able to figure out the translating back and forth. There were a lot of hand motions that were going back and forth constantly, and you learn how to communicate in a lot of beautiful ways that you don't expect. On top of that, living in a homestay gives you the opportunity to have such amazing food. When you're in an apartment or you're staying on your own, you're still cooking for yourself. And yeah, you get to experience the food that is cultural to wherever you are, but it's different making the recipes yourself and then having them made by somebody who's made them their whole life. every single night, except for I think it was weekends, we had dinner with our host family. And something that's very important, at least in Argentina, is that it's a cultural experience. It's from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night that you're talking to them, that you're having the conversations, talking about your day, getting into very heated arguments back and forth, but it's all out of that level of passion and love. And being able to experience that level of passion was something that I wasn't anticipating with a host family. I was expecting it to be a lot more, oh, you live with them, but they really became our family. Again, I'm still in contact with all of them, and everyone else on my program who stayed with a host family also got the chance to be very, very close with the people that they lived with. The people who are hosting the host families are very passionate about this sort of thing. They're not just doing it for money, or that they're doing it because they want to experience what it's like to show someone their culture. And therefore there's a lot of connection opportunities that I even wasn't really anticipating, but highly recommend. And then you can go to like a salsa class with your grandma that you're living with abroad, and then it's fun and great. So highly recommend host family over anything else.
I 100% agree with Sam. You took the words out of my mouth, really, because my Spanish was not as good in the beginning, and I had a lot of problem like communicating myself. And the host mother that I had was so affectionate that she would just open translate the way I'm talking, and we would be able to communicate that way in the beginning. And then as time passed, I was able to be more comfortable speaking the language. And another thing is the food that they make. So my host mom made breakfast and dinner every day, and living abroad, you spend a lot of money buying food outside, and you kind of get tired of the food outside too at some point. So it was really nice to have some home cooked meal at home. And I see Lara's question about like staying with a host family compared to with friends. I had a lot of friends who stayed with each other, and I found this pattern. So when you have friends to stay in an apartment with, you already have your little friend group and you're speaking English all the time. You're not really like actively speaking Spanish at home. But versus you live in a host family, then you're kind of on your own a little bit. Maybe you feel a little lonelier in the beginning because you don't have that little tight-knitted friend group that you came with or that you know of. But it turns out to be very rewarding because then you also are able to go outside more and just look for friends and able to connect to the people that live in the country more. And you're also able to just reach out to your city managers if something is really not bothering you about the home that you're staying. For example, you don't want a dog in the house, there's dogs in the house, and you kind of like let them know there's always some accommodation for you. And it's also the safety aspect because they know the city around. A lot of my friends had something stolen. I never had anything stolen, and that was main reason was she would tell me, you're going here at this time, be careful of this. Or just opening Google Maps on my phone. I live in Chicago, so it's easy for me to be able to find a bus to go anywhere. Same in Barcelona. It's really easy to go to the airport. You just take the train. My mom came to visit me. She just took the train. It was really easy for her. Just overall, Barcelona is a very easy city to navigate, and it's very open to tourists that like you can speak English and they will understand mostly. I think it's a very rewarding experience to be with a homestay.
Amazing.
I love that. Thank you so much. I know we have so much to talk about, but just maybe very quickly, Jaclyn, Ellie, James, curious to know if you want to chime in briefly on what it was like to just live abroad, make those adjustments, things you loved, advice you have.
And feel welcome to chime in on your housing experience as well. Would love to hear.
Exactly. Please do.
I can go ahead.
Oh,
Oh, sorry,
go ahead.
Ellie. So I will say with Atlantis, the housing was a dorm, and we were actually on a university campus in the middle of the city. And it was really nicely done where like all of Atlantis, it was a small cohort. We were just 10 of us. It was like 2 girls per room, 2 boys per room, and then we had a big kitchen, big living room. So I feel like we all kind of got to independently figure it out together. And there was a really good transition period where like the very first day of the program was just arrival day. They were like, unpack, get to know each other, relax, like get comfortable before we jump into exploring, before we head to the hospital. So I felt like the way that the program was paced at the very beginning, it kind of let everybody like get over the initial shock of, oh my gosh, I'm in a new country and I'm in an apartment with a whole bunch of students that I haven't met before, and kind of settle in. And I felt like that really set me up for success. I felt like I was able to kind of make my home in my own little family with the rest of the cohort.
So I also lived in a dorm as well. I had a roommate that lived like in the room with me, and then we had like our own private bathroom, which was super nice. I live in a dorm on campus, like at my home university, so that wasn't really like a shocker to me. But I do live in a single, and so living with a roommate was kind of a different experience for me. My roommate was actually Vietnamese. That was kind of like one of the things I didn't really expect before going abroad, especially because I did a full semester. And so I got to meet a lot of different students. I fully expected to meet Korean students, obviously, but I was really kind of surprised at how many international students from Europe, from South America, from all over the world. I got to meet and like learn about their culture. And it was kind of a something I hadn't really thought about before going in, but it was actually one of the best parts of my experience.
For myself, it was a little bit different. In Rome, we were located in an apartment in Prati. It was myself and three other guys. We didn't know each other before. We all met then and there. One was from Texas, Connecticut. I'm from New York, another from Arizona. So it was like an apartment, honestly. The neighborhood was very safe. It was about 2 blocks from St. Peter's Basilica. And the biggest piece of advice I'll give, because this was a surprise to me, I had never been to Europe before. If you got to do laundry, they only have a washing machine. You got to air dry everything. So, didn't know that before. Learning experience, but everything went very smoothly. Never felt scared or anything. It was all very nice.
Thank you so much all for sharing, and good tip with the laundry, James. And to be honest, when you air dry your clothes, not only is it more sustainable, it also helps preserve your clothes for longer. So there's a perk there. I would love to bounce this next question over to Ellie to begin, and then I want to hear from James and Jackie next after Ellie. Sam, you were already hinting at this, so that's why you're not getting to go first. But specifically, I want to dive into excursions, which are part of all of our programs. It's included, and it's something that Heather and I hear from alumni all the time of highlights was the included excursion. So I'd love to hear from each of you about your favorite excursion. What did you do? Where did you go? Or you're also welcome to just share a favorite memory from where you were too. So excursion, time for excursion talk. Ellie, why don't you start us off?
Yes. So first off, I'll say like my thing that was like most shocking about all of the excursions is like CS abroad like did not cheap out on us. Like they tried to, there's like certain like must do things that you have to do when you're in Korea. And so like a lot of the more expensive things, like it's a big thing to go to like the main palace in Seoul and do a hanbok rental, which is like traditional Korean dress. And like that can be kind of like expensive, but that was like one of the things that CIS abroad did. They also had like a trip where we kind of got to choose as a group like what we wanted to do, to go to Lotte World, which is kind of like the Disney World of Korea, and they gave us like fast passes and like the full tickets to both of the parks, and which unfortunately I could not go to that because I had something else that day. But it was like all of the experiences felt very like fleshed out and thought through. And a lot of times we would also like have a meal or have dinner on them as well. So that was probably, I can't pick one excursion, but that's what I remember most distinctly about all of the excursions there. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellie. And then, yeah, James and Jackie, to my understanding with Atlantis and Lex is like at least once a week, something you all do. So can you talk about those special moments for you, please?
I I'd love to. So on the Lex Fellowship, there was two different types of excursions. One was a legal excursion, the other was a cultural excursion. So I only got to go on one cultural excursion. I was there for 2 weeks. The day before that, though, on Thursday, we had our legal excursion. We went to the Italian equivalent of the Supreme Court, their court of last resort, they call it. Went there, watched a trial, talked with lawyers, got a tour of the building. It's a lot of fun. The next day, we went to Lake Bracciano on our cultural excursion. Probably one of my favorite memories of being abroad because we were there, we were on the lake paddleboarding, and then these dark clouds start coming in. It starts drizzling a little bit. We all leave. We were supposed to go on a boat tour as well. We're on the boat tour, and then these downpouring clouds chasing our boat. And then we got gelato and took cover in a gelato building. A lot of fun. The next week, we had our second legal excursion where we went to Rome's Attorney General's office, their equivalent. Talked with them, got to see the rooftop of the building, learned a lot, get to speak about what they do, how they do it, all that. Those were the 3 excursions I was able to go on. A lot of fun.
So in Atlantis, the excursions are a little bit different just because it's going to be one per week, but they were huge excursions. Like they were day-long Friday adventures. And then something I really appreciated is that everything was already kind of pre-coordinated by the city manager. It was already built into the tuition. So it's like our city manager, she gave us the itinerary. We just showed up and had the most amazing time. And in Italy, my favorite excursion, I was in Chioggia, Italy, which is very close to Venice, but it's a pretty rural kind of island area. And our city manager, she told us, we're going to Padova. We're taking a bus. We're going to a big city. And so Padova was actually university town, and she took us to get espresso at a really historical, really famous, it was like a green coffee shop. She took us to see one of the oldest medical universities. So I thought that was interesting how she still tied in medicine to the cultural excursion. We got to see Da Vinci's spine, which was so interesting. And then I loved how flexible she was with us because we were a lot of girls prominent in our group, and we were passing just this huge shopping market area, and all of our heads are turning, and she goes, we'll make time for shopping. We'll make time for shopping. So I loved her flexibility that she really worked with us and like what we wanted to do. And then we ended the day with pizza, and it was like a buffet of different pizzas in Padova. So it was like just this Italian academic, like wrapped up experience. It was so much fun. And honestly, every week was so different, but that one really like nailed it.
I was like walking with you, Jaclyn. Like as you were describing, I was like, yes, my head was turning to look at the market. So beautiful description and ending with pizza. What could be better? I'm Asel, I want to ask you about excursions too. I want to give you a moment, but I'm gonna tag on an extra question and then I want to open it to anybody else to chime in specifically about communication. So we've had a question in the chat about cell phone carrier. So if you could share a little bit about how did you navigate yourself using your cell phone abroad? Because there's SIM cards, there's this, there's that. We've had bits and pieces of you all sharing about on-site staff supporting you with your cell phone. So Asel, can you share? I would love to hear an excursion and then tell me about your cell phone experience in Barcelona, please.
Yeah, so excursion. There was excursion would be to Morocco. So we went with the plane with some friends, and it was just amazing. We went to the desert, got on the ATV. Not much to say, there was just an amazing experience. And it was incredible because it was raining, and in Morocco it doesn't rain a lot, but we went there and it was raining all 10 days. So we were soaked. I was soaked in my little ballerina flats all day. It was an amazing experience. And in terms of communication, what was the question, second question that you had about communication?
Yeah, so we had a question in the chat about a preferred cell phone carrier. But can you just speak to whether it was SIM card or did you receive support? How did you navigate using a cell phone?
Yeah, I had the eSIM card installed. That was very easy. Some of my friends had option to buy on the sites when they arrived at the country, and they had some lagging in between, maybe a few days of no cell phone service. So they were running around trying to find Wi-Fi. But I think it's very convenient to get an eSIM card so that even before you arrive or at the airport, if you do it a little earlier, you get to have internet access. And in general, I saw a question about how to remove pickpockets. That's, I think, main thing is just keep your purse in front of you, really, and don't go at night walking with earbuds. I always do that. I recommend don't listening to music when you're walking, especially in a new country, because people can be really slick. So it's really good to put your purse in front of you, Usually it's very safe in most of these countries, but again, keeping an eye on the outsides, keeping your purse in front of you. Don't put your phone in your back pockets on the jean. I always do that, so don't do that. Crowded areas, keep mindful attention of around you, and don't be paranoid either, because I'm sure you'll have a great time. Just a little bit more carefulness.
Excellent pieces of advice. And I also wanted to add that with orientation, with all of these programs that I referenced, tips just like Asel shared to us, but also support for setting up cell phone plans. All of that is given to students both before via information as well as once arriving on site during orientation. So it's not to just figure out on your own. There's plenty of support services there. Heather, your hand is raised.
I just wanted to quickly add that I know it can feel a little intimidating to prepare for your own health and safety while you're abroad, but in general, what I let students know is any rule you might apply to a city here in the US is smart to apply while you are abroad as well. So it's not uncommon for me to visit campuses that have honor codes. I've been on campuses before that require students to sign that they will not steal from their fellow students, that they will treat their fellow students with respect. So when you're on campus, you see people leave their laptops, sitting there while they get up and go to the restroom. You forget your water bottle someplace and you come back and 12 hours later, it's still there. And I love that campus environment exists for so many students, but chances are you probably wouldn't go to New York City and leave your laptop sitting on a table at Starbucks while you step to the restroom. So I let students know there's nothing to be intimidated about. We will let you know of any special health and safety rules that apply to the location that you are in beyond general knowledge and best practice, but just basic awareness and anything that you might apply to your own health and well-being and safety here in the US applies abroad, and anything else you might need to know, our staff is here to support and make sure you feel really safe and healthy throughout your time abroad.
Excellent points, Heather. Thank you so much. Other alum would like to chime in about any communication. I think we'll just take one more response before I move on to the next topic. Sam, go for it.
Yeah, while I was abroad, I have Verizon as my phone plan. They had an option for me I was abroad for 8 weeks, so 2 months. They had an option for me to switch my phone plan to an international one for just those 2 months. I think it was an extra $15 each of those months on top of the phone plan that I had. And that was a really great option for me. My roommate, we got her a SIM card while we were in Argentina. We had to go around and search a bunch of different convenience stores in order to find one, but we were able to find one for her within the first day and have it installed. And they have places on site that typically you can get, or just in your city, that will install those SIM cards for you as well. People also had eSIMs. So I think that depending on what you had available to you is kind of what you did. I liked having to not do anything different with my phone. I set it up before I went abroad, so switched it the day before I went, and then I think it was $30 total for the 2 months, and then as soon as I got back, I switched it back to the normal plan. But the physical SIM cards were also, I think that was probably the most popular option.
And I would say occasionally, and seek the advice of our staff, of course, and our on-site teams, but it can even be more affordable to use the local options, of course, but do what is best for you and your family. I'm going to jump into the next topic. Please continue to drop questions in the Q&A box. We still have time to answer a few, but I'd really like to move into an important topic, especially for all of us in the field of international education, but I'd like to bring up the topic of identity and study abroad. Or study abroad, experiences abroad, going abroad, all of it. And speaking of identity, this is relating to maybe more traditional topics relating to identity, but it can also include less thought of aspects of identity, which could be a dietary restriction or maybe being the first person in your family to attend a college or a university. So speaking from all of us as professionals in the field of international education, it's really important to us that students feel empowered and prepared in each stage of going abroad, right? So preparing while you're there and also after as you're reflecting on your experiences. So I'm not going to call on anybody here because I'd like you all to just share from your own honest, authentic experiences. But I'm going to open up the floor for anyone to share anything relating to your own identity and how it may have impacted your experience, and feel welcome to expand on this in whatever way you see best.
I would love to go first on this because I had a unique experience. I'm Muslim, so the time I went during the spring semester, I was fasting from March to end of March. So I was fasting for a whole month, and at the same time I was traveling and doing vacation time as well. And I must say it was such a transformative experience for me because I was able to find, especially when I went to Morocco, I realized, wow, I really miss my culture. I really do value my religion. And when you're in the States and you're surrounded by like-minded people, it's a little more hard to appreciate who you are. But when you're somewhere unknown with people who you don't really know, then you're like, oh, wow. Like, that's why I think it's really important to get out of your comfort zone, because you really end up coming back to yourself more. And I was able to find some friends who were also Muslim abroad. I went to a mosque in Barcelona, and I've never been to a mosque in Chicago. So that tells a lot about like how going abroad really impacts your identity. I think you end up coming back to yourself even more. So you end up going abroad to find something, and you end up finding yourself.
Asel, so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing those insights.
That was beautiful the way that you put that. So also on a religion piece of it, I'm Jewish, and something that was very important to me was being able to go to Shabbat services every week still. I didn't think that going abroad I would be able to find a temple or somewhere that I could go that I would feel safe or comfortable, given just in general how religion works in the world. So one of the things that I actually spoke with the on-site staff with was helping me find somewhere that I could go do this. And they were able to help me find a temple that I felt comfortable at, and was able to go to Shabbat services whenever I wanted to. On top of that, I am a queer student, and something that was important for me was being able to find a queer community while I was abroad. I didn't go abroad with anybody that I knew was queer whatsoever, but we were able to find, there were a lot of different events throughout the city as is. There were these nights where people there were certain restaurants where you would go in and you would have like the flag of where you were from. And then you would be able to meet people from all different countries. And then they had those events specifically for like the queer community and for other communities as well. So I think that depending on your city, there's a lot of opportunities to engage in each of your unique identities, but it's not something that you'll have to just put away in a drawer for the months that you are abroad. You will be able to be the person that you are. There just might be certain ways to do it safely that are different.
If it's okay, if I could jump in and kind of add my piece to it. I give a lot of presentations to students about my experience abroad, and I have this one slide in my presentation that is like me before going studying abroad, me after studying abroad. And like I am very like type A, like everything has to be planned, and we have to have like a very set like structure to like what we're doing. And so the whole thing of like booking flights and going to hotels, like I had never even used like Uber before going abroad. And then like it was a nice transition because I could still be very independent. But again, I had that on-site coordinator that could kind of help me if I had some sort of emergency or something like that. And so like towards the end of my program, I was planning a trip to Japan with some other friends. And I was looking at all of these flights and I was like, oh, there's all of these cool countries that it's so cheap. And so I was able to just like book a plane ticket myself and go to all of these amazing countries and had all of this amazing experiences. And even though that wasn't like a part of like my Korea program, I was able to do that because of Korea. Like I don't think I could have like anxiety wise and emotionally have gone on that trip if it weren't for that. And then I had an amazing professional opportunity in Vancouver the same exact summer. And I was able to like do it very cheaply, staying in a hostel, being around complete strangers. But like me before doing Korea, I would not have been able to do that. And then I got like a really amazing professional experience out of that as well. So it's kind of, I think it helps kind of ease you into being an adult for lack of a better descriptor. So.
Thank you both so much for sharing as well. For the sake of time, we're gonna move on, but unless someone really wants to share, because I just want to make sure we give space for this really important topic. Okay. All right. Heather, we've had a couple of questions in the chat and there are some topics. But I do want to just thank you all so much for your authenticity with answering those questions. And I know from the alum we didn't hear as well, I would love to connect with you as well to hear your reflections on that topic too. Heather, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. We actually have some wonderful questions about how your time abroad is benefiting you from a career perspective, things you can put on a resume, things that you can prep for. So put that in your brain. I'm coming back for it, as well as just talking about reentry and settling back to your life here in the US. So really quickly, so we have time for those great topics, I wanted to address a couple of questions I was seeing related to things like credit and debit cards abroad and health insurance. So just super quickly, I will say that health insurance is provided for students on our programs, and your student can reach out to their site specialist for specific info, but we actually have wonderful health and safety, as we've been discussing, and actually requires students to be a part of our insurance plan so that we can most effectively support them while they are abroad. So more details can be provided by your student site specialist. And then regarding credit and debit cards, it really truly depends on your student's bank, the type of card that they have. I myself, when I travel internationally, do use a credit card that does not charge any international fees on top of standard conversion fees. So I highly recommend have your student call their bank, have your student call their credit card, and just ask some basic questions about what they can anticipate. But on the whole, most US-based credit cards are accepted abroad without issue. Most US-based debit cards can be used in ATMs without issue, but they will experience a conversion fee, and that just depends on the particular bank. So do a little bit of research, call up your credit card, debit card, and I'm sure you'll find some really helpful information that will be specific to your student. So that in mind, Katie, can I pass it over to you?
Yeah.
I love two great questions up ahead, but maybe let's start with the career readiness and then we'll end with reentry. So Katie, over to you.
That's exactly what I was thinking as well. Thanks so much, Heather. So I'm so sad we're getting close to the top of the hour. I wish I could continue to chat with y'all all evening. But career readiness is really important to us. And I'm sure each of you can speak to different activities that you had while abroad relating to career readiness. I am going to direct this question to Jackie first, then Sam, with a focus on pre-med and pre-health. And one question we did get is, does this program help to have a good resume for medical school since there is shadowing? So Jackie, I would love for you to speak to that resume for med school, but Sam, then I'd love for you to share about career readiness and how it relates to what you're studying and where you're going next.
Absolutely. So a little bit of a callback to the identity. I'm a first gen student, so I don't have connections with healthcare professionals. The idea of getting to speak with a surgeon just giving me the time of day, was completely out of my realm of possibility until I did this program. I was able to chat directly and shadow the cardiology director of the hospital, the pediatric director of the hospital. So the advice, the wisdom I got from these MD, PhD surgeons cannot be understated. I mean, everyone is always looking for professional mentors, trying to get good advice like that. This program put me directly with these medical professionals in their fields to learn from them, and then all of the hours done in Atlantis are certified. So you have documentation that you have a significant amount of clinical observation hours. I actually have already submitted primaries for DO school, and I can tell you this is clinical experience that you can use on your medical school applications. One of my good friends just went off to PA school because of the experience that she did on this program as well. So when you're thinking professional school, like nursing, medical school, this is the shadowing that they want to see on your resume. And then even more on a career standpoint, I actually did make make a really great connection with one of the doctors, and I got a recommendation letter out of it. I got their contact information, and once I was back in the US, a little bit of entry too. Once I got back in the US, I was sending messages back, and I got a recommendation letter out of the program. So I feel that the words of advice, the hours themselves, and the rec letter really just gave me a good trifecta for applying.
So, as a pre-med who did a program that wasn't at all pre-med related, since finding out about Atlantis, I've been kind of obsessed with the idea of it. I wish that I found out about it earlier in my college career, but it's a
You
really
can still
great
do
program.
it all in.
This is that is true. That is true. But I would say that a lot more of the skills that I got while being abroad were maybe soft skills, but I think very important. It taught me a lot about patience, but really patience in practice. Because you're very patient when you're at home, when you're doing all the things that you're doing, but when you're in a place that's completely unknown, when you're completely immersed in chaos, honestly, constantly, you learn how to manage it and make that comfortable. And that level of chaos is something that you see very commonly in the medical field. And if you're going into the medical field, it's something that you're going to have to be comfortable with that uncomfortableness. So I think that this was a really great opportunity for me to really sit with that level of uncomfortableness and figure out what about it wasn't necessarily the best for me in order to figure out how I can best manage it moving forwards. Because that sort of thing isn't going away, but it is something that you need to be able to master in order to succeed in medicine. And this was the last thing about it I'll say. You're like, by all intents and purposes, you're completely alone with it. You're with your friends, maybe if you came with them, but you're not with your parents to fall back on or your university to fall back on. So you really do get the chance to figure it out on your own and then know that you have that efficacy yourself to keep doing that moving forwards.
100%. Yes, navigating discomfort is certainly something that is exciting about going abroad because you learn more about yourself, as Asel was sharing so beautifully, and you gain so many wonderful new skills that you can apply not only into your life, but also into your next career steps. We only have a few more moments left. So we're gonna bring things home unless Heather sees other burning questions. But to bring us home, we are going to talk about reintegrating back into the US or back into your home life at your university. So I'm going to start with Asel and then go to Ellie and end with James. So Asel, to start with you, what tips do you have for coming back after being abroad, going to Barcelona and then returning to your home institution or your home after being abroad? What tips do you have?
Yeah, I think it might definitely be hard to connect back to somewhere like you were used to before and you were away from it for so long. One thing that really helps me was I always journal here in America, but I kept that journaling habits when I was abroad. If not every day, every week, because we do travel a lot. But then when you come back here, you kind of are at this like kind of in a lost state, and you're like, oh wow, I had all this happen. It did not feel like 5 months. It feels so long ago. It was like a fever dream. I had all of this going on in my head, and I just picked up my notebook and I see, okay, this is what I did that day. I was so happy I met this person. So I really recommend journaling when you're abroad, even if like every 2 weeks, because then you come back, you have something tangible to look at, looking at the photos you had over there, and just again, keeping family and friends close to you when you come back is really important.
I'm not gonna lie, this is coming back has probably been the hardest part of the entire experience for me. Especially because like I stay very, very busy as a college student. And when I was in Korea, like I finally felt like I made some of the best friends I'd ever met throughout my entire college career. So one of the things that has really helped me with that whole transition is just keeping up with them, especially just like through social media, even if I'm just like swiping up on their story and like, oh, hey, or I see a video that reminds me of them, just like sending it that way and kind of trying to maintain those friendships, even though we're all across the country and all across the globe. Um, Another thing too is just talking about the experience, even professionally. Again, my major, we're required to do a study abroad, and so I give a lot of information to students in my major about it all the time, and they'll come up and ask me questions, and it's kind of a fun way to kind of relive the experience. And I'm like, you have no idea what's waiting for you. It's going to be so amazing. Like, I'm jealous, but also so happy for you as well. So.
James, can I pass the mic to you to share about any
Yes.
tips?
Um, it feels like it went so fast being away, and it was in May, now we're in November. It feels like a lifetime ago. Take a lot of pictures while you're away, take a lot of videos. Keep in contact with the people you meet over there. I still talk to a whole bunch of them. I actually got a text from someone the other day. We still talk and everything. I think the hardest part about coming back was coming back. I miss it a lot. It was a very good time, and you are so busy, especially on the Lex and Atlantis programs. It flies by. So take so many pictures. That's the best advice I got.
Thank you all so much for sharing. Yes, those pictures, those videos, you'll treasure those for years to come. And it's true that when you come back, you know, the unlearning and the relearning and the processing and the reflecting, it happens in waves, right? It's not just immediately you come back and you have all these reflections. It'll come and hit you in unexpected moments. At least that's been my own experience as a study abroad alum as well. We're out of time, y'all. I'm so sad that we have to end our event today. I want to say thank you so much to our attendees for joining us. We are going to send out the recording of this, so that will be coming to you soon. Since you registered for this event, we have your email, so please expect that from us in the coming days. And if you submitted a question that didn't get answered as well, we will do our best to follow up with you. But please feel encouraged to connect with us via social media, as well as check out our programs on our website, of course. Heather, is there any final closing remarks that I can pass over to you as well? And thank you so much to each and every one of our alums, truly, for spending your evening with us. It was amazing to hear your experiences and everything that you shared. So truly, thank you so much.
I just will echo everything Katie said. And panelists, you've been so busy focusing on our live questions. I wanted to make sure you saw a wonderful note that was left in the Q&A box that says, "You are all so well spoken. You are all such positive role models for traveling abroad. As a parent with 2 daughters going abroad, I feel so much better after today." I thank each of you for taking the time to do this today. So thank you so much to the kind parent who shared that wonderful feedback, but I could not have said it better. It was such a pleasure to hear from you all. I learn so much every time I speak to our wonderful alums. I'm inspired so much by all of you, and I know the students who are prepping to go abroad will too. There were a couple of questions that I didn't get to. I saw them all in the background, working on taking notes so that I can get you answers to your questions. But as Katie said, we'll be sharing this recording, sharing contact information with you all after today, so don't hesitate to reach out with additional questions. And thank you so much for being here this evening.
Wonderful. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.